Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. And this week I'm taking a look at I don't even know what to call it, but it is a game. It is developed and published by Trichotomy. Dog Sled Saga was released back in 2016. So this is going to be a little bit different this week, I think. Because, well, have you ever looked at your Steam library and saw a game that you had no idea where you picked it up? Was it on sale one time? Was it part of a bundle? Who knows? All I know was that I was looking through titles tagged with RPG, a vastly overused tag, by the way, and I was looking for a game to cover this week before I returned to some hardcore RPG genre RPGs, when I come across this one tagged with RPG, Simulation, and Racing. So I figure, what the hey, I'll take a look at it. Dog Sled Saga is all about managing a dog sledding team, building your dog's stats, learning their unique traits, and engaging them in races in order to further build your team's reputation and resources. When you create a new game, you select a main character and then select from various potential dogs. And this is one of where the main interesting element of the game kicks in, because each dog has their own set of statistics and traits, and those statistics can improve, like an RPG. However, you don't actually know much about the dogs to begin with, because they're dogs. At first, each dog has a certain set of known traits. You got your sex, your breed, your personality, and your general rating. These can give an indication as to what to expect from the dog going forward. Some may also have recognized traits, that is, individual traits and quirks that have been identified by its prior owner. But it's important to realize that just because a dog has a none listed under the traits that are known, doesn't mean that they don't have any. Rather, it simply means that they haven't been discovered yet. Once you actually enter the game and get into play, you begin to realize that each dog has additional stats. Each dog has a fatigue rating measured in light and heavy fatigue boxes, a happiness rating, and a skill rating. As you engage in races and earn experience, your dog's fatigue and skill rating cap may improve, while their happiness will vary depending on race events and how they are treated. But then more complexity kicks in that dogs also have skills. Not skills that they can learn, but rather each dog has one skill that may be discovered and may either affect the particular individual dog or the entire team when it goes off. Each dog has a fault as well that can kick in during a race and inhibit your abilities. Each dog has a favorite thing, which improves their happiness when it occurs and their effectiveness when it goes off. These favorite things can range widely, from actions taken during a race to weather conditions and so forth. Dogs may also have certain preferences to where the sledding team that they're put in. They can either be the wheel nearest to the sled, the middle, or the lead dog. Dogs may be suited to a particular position, making them more effective in it, but may also gain experience in that position, and may eventually result in them specializing in that position. Each dog may develop rapport with other dogs on the team, increasing their effectiveness and happiness when they're placed in line with the same dog. Finally, each dog has a fame level. When certain things happen during races, perfectly timed events, beating rival teams, etc., a dog team may get fame points, and dogs of a certain fame level render you eligible for certain sponsorships. Initially, you may have up to 4 dogs in your roster, with up to 3 dogs on the team during an event at any one time. However, you may expand your kennel over time to eventually build up a fairly decent-sized roster. There's basically 2 main elements of the game: the day-to-day management of your team, and then the races themselves. Aside from the dogs in your day-to-day management screen, you may see a number of other options. There's a note section where you can collect information on managing your dogs during play and individual dogs. There's the overall money that you've earned and what day and date it is in the game. Along the bottom of the numbers of the days towards each event. Every so often, races are taken that you can actually participate in. There are league dues to pay I believe it's like every month. And then there's sponsorship offers you may qualify for, and they only come up every so often. Each day you may inspect your dogs and run a number of quick errands. And those errands don't take time for the day. Quick errands may include going to the league office where you can change the league that you're in or try to qualify for a higher one. You can hire dogs that lets you hire dogs. You can manage dogs, and that lets you look at your dogs in depth and possibly retire one if you want to remove it from your team. You can expand the kennel, and that lets you buy more kennel slots using your money. Manage staff, which later in the game allows you to hire staff to further benefit your dogs and undertake tasks for you. There's Customized Sled that lets you change the look of your dog sled. Manage Sponsors that lets you see your sponsor benefits and effects. Breeding that lets you breed 2 of your dogs together to raise another puppy. and then a guest book to seed the Kickstarter credits. Each day you may also choose a regimen to work with your dogs with. If there's a current race, you may attempt to enter it, otherwise you may care for your dogs or you may train them. You can work with up to 3 of them at a time initially, with any who aren't being worked with or left to rest. Simply resting restores a little bit of fatigue, but it does lower the dog's skill. When you care for the dog, it works similarly, but you restore more fatigue. Skill still lowers. Finally, training dogs restores 1 skill each to each dog being trained. It should be noted that skill raises during races as well as during training, but it is capped at any one time based on the dog's level. The higher the skill, the higher the dog's efficiency in the race. The higher the dog's level, the higher the cap that their skill can go to. This cap and the need to maintain and balance fatigue levels with your skill means that managing the dogs on days between races can be quite important and becomes a fairly driving challenge in the game, especially as your team and your staff grow larger. Paying league dues is simple enough. You simply pay money from your overall total based on the league level and the number of dogs that you have. Sponsors offer a variety of game-affecting benefits, from reducing your costs to providing boosts to elements of the race. You have a limited number of sponsor slots, and different sponsors take different numbers of slots, so you can eventually take a few different sponsors so long as you have the openings. All of this is basically to prepare for the actual races. Now, races, you can see the information on them when you are about to enter them. They have a prize pool with more money given to the winner and less to the second and third place finishes, as is natural. A race will also have a weather system, which can include the time of day, a length of the race, wind conditions, which affect the incidence of wind events, a challenge rating, the quality of the snow, known obstructions that must be avoided, a limit to the number of dogs that you can take on your team to that race, the amount of dog treat restocks that you'll get during the race, and then finally the foliage level of the track, which impacts the incidence of low-hanging trees. When you start the race itself, the action part of the game, you may arrange your selected dogs in order. A status screen will show their overall exhaustion rate based on how rested they are, the position that they're in, the level of experience that they have in that position, and then you can start. Once you start the game, it's a basic action scene. You scroll through the level automatically and must manage multiple things to keep your dog's speed up. The spacing between dogs can be adjusted, although it does decay over time. Keeping your dogs well spaced will reduce the chance of their paws becoming entangled in the leads. If a dog does become entangled, it will slow you down and you must attempt to free it. Your dogs also tire over time. You have a limited number of treats in your bag. When your dogs start panting, it means that they are tiring and you must aim and throw a treat to them, attempting it to get near their head so they can eat it. If you fail to, the dog may become very tired and may eventually slow it down. You can also toss a meal to a dog that's already full, but it'll probably just bounce off their head and irritate them. Tossing a treat in just the right way may result in a perfect throw. Every so often, you'll come across a restock station which will automatically restock your supply of treats. While progressing through the race, you'll also face various obstacles and hindrances. Wind will modify how far your throw goes, either lengthening it or reducing it, depending on which direction it is, and that'll make it more difficult to aim. Overhanging branches will keep your throw from going too high, which limits which dogs you can actually throw to, if any. Finally, obstructions must be jumped over, requiring your dogs to be untangled and ready to jump. Performing certain acts may result in accruing fame points. Tossing treats just so they land in 2 hungry dogs' mouths at the same time, tossing a treat so that the dog catches it in midair during a jump, etc. are all good ways to get fame points. Skills and faults also come into play during a race, triggering by themselves during the ongoing issue. A happier dog triggers their skill more often, while an unhappy dog is liable to trigger their fault more often. Faults can be things like dogs deciding to drop their speed and not run so fast, suddenly finding it more difficult to catch treats, or becoming entangled more often. Skills can benefit a single dog, such as enabling a dog to run farther without getting tired, or trigger a group buff effect, such as increasing speed overall when they are fed extra. And all of that is how you manage the race. It mostly boils down to timing feeding your dogs, keeping them well spaced, and then avoiding hindrances and setbacks. The actual placement in the race all follows from that, because that'll also increase your speed. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it doesn't usually actually require a whole lot of worry once you get into it. The game just continues in that cycle where you manage your dogs between races and then you try to win races. All throughout, there is a sub-story where you deal with a rival racer and uncover information about a legendary sled dog, but that mostly just rolls in automatically between races. At the end of each race, your dogs do gain experience points, fame, they may gain fatigue, and so forth based on your performance during the race. Graphically, Dog Sled Saga uses a fairly well animated and appropriate pixel art style that seems a little bit mobile gamey at times, but at least is very fitting and rather charming in its own way. I wish I could say the same about the sound design. Now, the music isn't annoying per se, but let's just say I wouldn't want to listen to it for an extended time. At least the audio cues for the dog skills and weariness are useful, and you'll probably be relying on those almost as much as actually the graphics. The interface is minimal, but based on how simple the game is, it really shouldn't be that complex in the first place. So what do I think about it? Is Dog Sled Saga even an RPG? I mean, no, it doesn't have you delving into dungeons or solving mysteries or the like, and there is the old joke of, oh, sports games are the real RPGs or whatever, but, fundamentally, you're managing an interchangeable team trying to accomplish a goal, each of which has its own stats, which may improve over time. They each have their own traits, they even have their own skills. There's even a decent story, although unfortunately there's not much in the way of choice or exploration in that regard. I personally would chalk this more up as a simulation than an RPG, even a sort of light one, but I will admit that I am less irked over the presence of the RPG tag for Dog Sled Saga than I am for some of the other stuff that I've covered. Would I recommend it? Honestly, I don't know. It's not a bad game, it's just really different. And I honestly don't know much in the way of games to compare it to, because usually I say, well, if you like X game, then you'll probably like this, and I don't know. Now, I personally enjoyed it, but I honestly can't see myself playing it for any real length of time. The upside is it does have a modest price tag, and I'm sure it will show up on sale from time to time. And again, I'm not even sure where I personally picked this up, so I can't even say whether what I paid was worth it. However, I will say that if you do manage to grab it as part of a bundle or on sale, it might be worth looking at for an afternoon. I certainly wouldn't cry if I saw it in a bundle. If nothing else, it's quite a bit different from your ordinary management sim. And on that note, I will wrap it up here. This has been the Indie Game Friday with Dog Sled Saga. As always, I'll pop a link to where you can pick it up below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.